family. Once again, this is Brother Azrael. Be doing today's lesson. For those of you who are online, you see a picture on the screen, and I'm asking the question on which of these is the most priceless, in your opinion and in the eyes of the Most High. I got a picture, for those of you who are not online, a picture of a diamond, a picture of a stack of hundreds, a picture of an antique car, and then I got a picture of an Israelite brother and sister. So just think out loud, in your opinion, which of these pictures would be the most priceless in the Most High's eyes or in our eyes? All right, I'm hoping you would say the people, the Israelite, the sister and brother. That would be the most priceless. So let's go to Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 2. It's Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 2. And let's go to verse 23.
The book of Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 2, and verse 23. For Yahweh created man to be immortal. It made him to be an image of his own eternity.
All right, so it's the Most High is saying that he made man to be immortal, to live forever, and to be the image of his eternity. So now we think about like Greek mythology and Rome, they had their little gods, and they had gods that were supposed to be immortal, but we don't see them around, do we? And it's just a myth. That's exactly what it is. But for us, he has created us originally to be immortal. Now we know we'll get back to that status once Yahweh Shai comes back and gathers us up and redeems us from that standpoint. But we were always originally to be immortal, to live forever. All right, skip to chapter 3, and if you will, read verses 1 through 8.
Chapter 3, verse 5. But the souls of the righteous are in the hand of Yahweh. There shall no torment touch them. In the sight of the unwise, they seem to die, and their departure is taken for misery. And they're going from us to be utter destruction, but they are in peace. For though they be punished in the sight of men, yet is their hope full of immortality. And having been a little chastised, they shall be greatly rewarded. For Yahweh proved them, and found them worthy for himself. As gold in the furnace had he tried them, and received them as a burnt offering. And in the time of their visitation they shall shine, and shall run to and fro like sparks among the stubble. They shall judge the nations, and have dominion over the people. And Yahweh shall reign forever.
All right, so it says that for being just a little chastised, not greatly chastised, but just a little chastised in verse 5, they shall be greatly rewarded, means us. For God hath proved us and found us worthy for himself. That's if we endure to the end. We've got to go through this trying period. It says, as gold in the furnace hath he tried them, and received them as a burnt offering. And in their time of visitation, he said, we will shine and run to and fro like sparks among the stubble. So we got to go through this proving period. But he says it's not going to be, in my mind, as stringent as we think. There's going to be some trying, because he's got to prove us, but not to the extent where it's going to be overbearing. So the righteous are very valuable in the Most High's mind, and we were never supposed to die, but to live forever. And of course, we know that in the Garden of Eden, Adam, when he sinned, we kind of lost that standpoint of being in that status. But through the blood of Yahushua, we were redeemed back unto himself. So let's go to 1 Corinthians chapter 6. Yeah, 1 Corinthians chapter 6, and read verses 19 and 20.
The book of 1 Corinthians chapter 6 and verse 19. What? Know ye not that your body is the temple of the Holy Ghost, which is in you, which ye have of Yahweh, and ye are not your own? For ye are bought with a price. Therefore glorify Yahweh in your body and in your spirit, which are Yahweh's.
Now we know that the Most High created us, of course, but then because we kind of lost that status, he has redeemed us back through the blood of Yahushua and said we were bought with a price. That was a huge price tag that Yahweh did by his death to redeem us back unto Yahweh. And he said, because of that, we're to glorify God in our body and in our spirit. All right. So now, the Most High owns us. So we kind of owe him a debt. Go to 1 Peter. There's a debt we can't repay, but we owe him. Go to 1 Peter chapter 1. 1 Peter chapter 1. And I want you to read verses 18 and 19.
Come. The book of 1 Peter chapter 1, verse 18. For as much as ye know that ye were not redeemed with corruptible things, as silver and gold, from your vain conversation received by tradition from your fathers, but with the precious blood of Yahushua, as of a lamb without blemish and without spot.
Okay, so that blood, his life, his death, is very precious in redeeming us back unto himself. So now, I want you to go to Matthew, the book of the Gospel of Matthew. Gospel of Matthew, chapter 26. And I want you to read verses 47 through 56.
Come. The book of Matthew chapter 26 and verse 47. And while he yet spoke, lo, Judas, one of the 12, came, and with him a great multitude with swords and staves, from the chief priests and elders of the people. Now he that betrayed him gave them a sign, saying, Whomsoever I shall kiss, that same is he. Hold him fast. And forthwith he came to Yahushua and said, Hail, Master, and kissed him. And Yahushua said unto him, Friend, wherefore art thou come? Then came they and laid hands on Yahushua and took him. And behold, one of them which were with Yahushua stretched out his hand and drew a sword and struck a servant of the high priest and smote off his ear. Then said Yahushua unto him, Put up again thy sword into his place, for all they that take the sword shall perish with the sword. Thinkest thou that I cannot now pray to my Father, and he shall presently give me more than 12 legions of angels? But how then shall the scriptures be fulfilled, that this it must be? In that same hour said Yahushua to the multitudes, Are ye come out as against a thief with swords and staves for to take me? I sat daily with you teaching in the temple, and you laid no hold on me. But all this was done that the scriptures of the prophets might be fulfilled. Then all the disciples forsook him and fled.
All right, that very last sentence in verse 56, it says, Then all the disciples forsook him and fled. Now, this is one of the most trying times of Yahushua's life. And I know we kind of think of him as being this superhuman that, hey, he had it made, but he had to go through thought processes. He had to endure. There were thoughts that went through his mind. In fact, he says there in verse 53, he said, Thinkest thou that I cannot now pray to my Father, and he shall presently give me more than 12 legions of angels? So these are thoughts that probably went through his mind, like, I don't really have to do this. But because of his assignment, because of what he needed to do, he endured, but he was also human, and he had these thoughts. And then to have these disciples that was basically saying, I'm with you, brother, ride or die, I'm down with you, I'm with you. They forsook him and left him alone all by himself. That had to be disheartening to a certain extent. Even though he knew it would happen, he also had to be in his mind like, man, for real? I mean, I thought you guys were with me. All right, so now if you can, go flip over a few verses and go to verse 30 and 35. Same chapter 26, and read verses 30 through 35.
Con. Verse 30, and when they had sung in him, they went out unto the Mount of Olives. Then saith Yahushua unto them, all ye shall be offended because of me this night. For it is written, I will smite the shepherd, and the sheep of the flock shall be scattered abroad. But after I am risen again, I will go before you into Galilee. Peter answered and said unto him, though all men shall be offended because of thee, yet will I never be offended. Yahushua said unto him, verily I say unto thee, that this night before the cock crow, thou shalt deny me thrice. Peter said unto him, though I should die with thee, yet will I not deny thee. Likewise also said all the disciples.
So now all of them said, hey, I'm with you. I'm not going to deny you. I got your back. And in verse 33, it says, Peter answered and said unto him, though all men shall be offended because of thee, yet will I never be offended. That word never is a dangerous word, because when you find yourself saying, I never do this, or you looking at somebody else's downfall, and you say, man, I could never do that, some dangerous words. But be careful with that word never. We've had this conversation now. Me personally, I pray that I endure to the end. I really do. But I really don't know when my back is against the wall what I would do. I'm prayerful that I will do the right thing, stand up for the Most High, die for him. But you don't never know. And then if you think that you know, these are boys that walked with him, talked with him, knew him personally, and said they would never forsake him. But we know what happened. In fact, let's flip over to verses 69 through 75, same chapter.
Verse 69, now Peter sat without in the palace, and a damsel came unto him, saying, thou also wast with Yahushua of Galilee. But he denied before them all, saying, I know not what thou sayest. And when he was gone out into the porch, another maid saw him, and said unto them that were there, this fellow was also with Yahushua of Nazareth. And again he denied with an oath, I do not know the man. And after a while came unto him they that stood by, and said to Peter, surely thou also art one of them, for thy speech bewayeth thee. Then began he to curse and to swear, saying, I know not the man. And immediately the cock crew. And Peter remembered the word of Yahushua, which said unto him, before the cock crow, thou shalt deny me thrice. And he went out and wept bitterly.
Again, this is one of his boys. In fact, I mean, he was the one that cut off the man's ear. I mean, I'm with you. You're my dude. Hey, no matter what happens, I got you. And then he said in verse 74, he began to curse and swear up and down. No, you can, I don't know the man. Don't, hey, 3 times he denied him. But yet, that was his boy. All right, so now let's go to John chapter 19. And I want you to read, this is kind of lengthy, and I appreciate your brother reading for me. But I want you to read this, and I want you to take your time. I remember times you tell me, take your time on this one. This is the crucifixion. And I want you to read chapter 19, verses 1 through 30.
The book of John, chapter 19 from the top. Then Pilate therefore took Yahushua and scourged him. And the soldiers platted a crown of thorns and put it on his head, and they put on him a purple robe, and said, Hail, King of the Jews! And they smote him with their hands. Pilate therefore went forth again and said to them, Behold, I bring him forth to you, that ye may know that I find no fault in him. Then came Yahushua forth, wearing the crown of thorns and the purple robe. And Pilate saith unto them, Behold the man. When the chief priests, therefore, and officers saw him, they cried out, saying, Crucify him, crucify him. Pilate saith unto them, Take ye him and crucify him, for I find no fault in him. The Jews answered him, We have a law, and by our law he ought to die, because he made himself the son of Yahweh. When Pilate therefore heard that saying, he was the more afraid, and went again into the judgment hall, and saith unto Yahushua, Whence art thou? But Yahushua gave him no answer. Then saith Pilate unto him, Speakest thou not unto me? Knowest thou not that I have power to crucify thee and have power to release thee? Yahushua answered, Thou couldst have no power at all against me, except it were given thee from above. Therefore he that delivered me unto thee has the greater sin. And from thenceforth Pilate sought to release him. But the Jews cried out, saying, If thou let this man go, thou art not Caesar's friend. Whosoever maketh himself a king speaketh against Caesar. When Pilate therefore heard that saying, he brought Yahushua forth and sat down in the judgment seat in a place that is called the pavement, but in the Hebrew, Gabbatha. And it was the preparation of the Passover, in about the 6th hour. And he saith unto the Jews, Behold your king. But they cried out, Away with him, crucify him. Pilate saith unto them, Shall I crucify your king? The chief priests answered, We have no king but Caesar. Then delivered he him therefore unto them to be crucified. And they took Yahushua and led him away. And he, bearing his cross, went forth into a place called the place of a skull, which is called in Hebrew Golgotha, where they crucified him, and two other with him, on either side one, and Yahushua in the midst. And Pilate wrote a title and put it on the cross, and the writing was, Yahushua of Nazareth, the King of the Jews. This title then read many of the Jews, for the place where Yahushua was crucified was nigh to the city, and it was written in Hebrew and Greek and Latin. Then said the chief priest of the Jews to Pilate, Write not the King of the Jews, but that he said, I am King of the Jews. Pilate answered, What have I written? I have written. Then the soldiers, when they had crucified Yahushua, took his garments and made 4 parts, to every soldier a part, and also his coat. Now the coat was without seam, woven from the top throughout. They said therefore among themselves, Let us not rend it, but cast lots for it, whose it shall be, that the scripture might be fulfilled, which saith, They parted my raiment among them, and for my vesture did they cast lots. These things therefore the soldiers did. Now there stood by the cross of Yahushua his mother, and his mother's sister, Mary, the wife of Cleophas, and Mary Magdalene. When Yahushua therefore saw his mother, and the disciple standing by whom he loved, he saith unto his mother, Woman, behold thy son. Then saith he to the disciple, Behold thy mother. And from that hour that disciple took her into his own home. After this, Yahushua, knowing that all things were now accomplished, that the scripture might be fulfilled, saith, I thirst. Now there was set a vessel full of vinegar, and he filled a sponge with vinegar, and put it upon hyssop, and put it to his mouth. When Yahushua therefore had received the vinegar, he said, It is finished. And he bowed his head and gave up the ghost.
Con, brother, appreciate that. So now, when we read this, I need somebody to mute up if they can. When we read this, we have to remember what the Yahushua endured. But think about this. Passover basically was about 3 months ago, 90 days. And for most of us, we go through our feast seasons, we go through this one, and we have a great time, then it's on to the next time. But I want you to kind of put yourself into the mindset as if either Yahushua just died this past Passover, or we were back then with him when he died. Now, let's just say we were not necessarily the 12, but we were followers and believers in what he did. So if he died this just past Passover, and we're 3 months removed from that time, I want you to think about what would you be doing right now? If he just died 3 months ago and you witnessed, you knew about him, you witnessed the miracles, you're around, it's all on Facebook, got pictures on YouTube, you got videos of it. At this very time, 3 months later, what will we be doing as believers? Just kind of think about that. All right. Now, also think about that, the fact that in their mindset, they probably thought he was only going to be gone for a short time. In fact, go to John chapter 14. John chapter 14. And I want you to read verses 1 through 4.
John chapter 14 from the top. Let not your heart be troubled. Ye believe in Yahweh, believe also in me. In my Father's house are many mansions. If it were not so, I would have told you. I go to prepare a place for you. And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come again and receive you unto myself, that where I am, there ye may be also. And whither I go, ye go, and the way ye know.
So in their mindset, they probably thought, okay, we witnessed him, he died, he rose again, we saw him a few times, over that 3 month period. He's gonna go do what he got to do. And I know in their mind, they probably didn't even think that 2,000 years would have passed before he returned. So they were kind of in expectation of him pretty much doing a quick return, in my opinion. So the point I'm trying to convey is that if he passed away 3 months ago, how much on fire we would be if we witnessed that and were a part of that whole movement. How fervent would we be to get others the information about who he was? And I know we look at it from the standpoint of there's a gap between the last feast day until the ones that we're going to have coming up in the month of September, or not. Well, I think it's like the next one will probably be trumpets. But to me, it's almost like in the natural. This period of time, if we were being an agricultural nation like we are, we'd be steady out there doing harvest. Like Sister Joanne just said earlier, she's doing all this canning. Brother Bawah, seems like every week he's bringing me some information, or not information, but items from his garden. Green beans, tomatoes. Harvest time, work to be done. So from another standpoint, here's a period of time where we should be working, not sitting back, because the harvest is not going to make itself. Trees got fruit on them. They're not going to pick themselves. Green beans, tomatoes, all these different crops that are being manifested and growing have to be harvested. And they don't do them by themselves. There's work to be done. So go to Luke chapter 10. Luke chapter 10, and I want you to read verse 2.
Luke chapter 10, verse 2. Therefore said he unto them, the harvest truly is great, but the laborers are few. Pray ye therefore Yahweh of the harvest that he would send forth laborers into his harvest.
So the harvest is out there. It's plenteous. And if we, again, witness that like it was yesterday, 3 months ago, man, we'd be busy. All right, so as I said, we have been redeemed and given a new lease on life, and with the very act of love that we can never repay back Yahweh for what Yahweh did for us. So with that being said, the Most High, he didn't redeem us just to sit back and do nothing. And we are not to be content in just waking up to this truth and doing nothing. So, you know me, I like to give these long introductions. So today's topic is ROI. And I want to ask the question, does anybody know what ROI means? R, The letter R, the letter O, I. Go ahead.
Return on investment.
Absolutely. Return on investment. Very good. That's today's topic. So now, we just read about the price Yahweh Shai paid for us and how he died to redeem us and how the Most High has invested a lot in us. And guess what? He's expecting a return on his investment. In other words, he didn't do all this just because. He's expecting something in return. So now, I'm going to deviate just a little bit. All right. On the picture, on the screen, is y'all familiar with these type of lollipops? Call them dum-dums. This is the bank's inside joke. I got this from a book called How Money Works. What do you find in the little basket on the counter in almost every bank? A basket of suckers. It's like their little inside joke. Delighted that you've walked right in not knowing how money works. They offer you a free sucker with a smile. It is intentional. And guess what brand most of them use? A lot of them use. They use dum-dums. In other words, the banks are not a necessary entity to a certain extent, but if you use the bank in order to gain money or feel like you're going to use it in order to grow your money, it's a scam. Because all they're going to do is take your money, give you basically nothing in return, and then use your money to make millions off of the money that you give them. And so that whole concept, again, in some entities is necessary, but don't ever use a bank in order to try to grow your money. It's like putting your money in a hole. I want you to consider three concepts when it comes to investments. And this is from like a worldly standpoint. The power of compound interest. Now there's two important or two notable ways of interest: simple interest and compound. Compound is far more the greater. And then the time value of money, and the rule of 72. Now I'm not going to go into these. If you're not familiar with these terms, you might need to Google them and find out something about them. Just like I said, the first one, there's a difference between the simple simple interest and compound interest. And the time value of money, just a little bit on that. If you were a young person, say age 20, and you invested a certain amount of money for like 5 years at a certain rate of interest, and then stopped investing, and then at the age of retirement, and then you got another person that started investing, but they waited till they were like 40 years old, and they invested a certain amount of money, the same as the 20-year-old, and then at retirement age, the person or the young person will gain way more money than the older person simply because he started at a younger age. So the time that you begin to invest makes a difference. And the rule of 72 is a formula used to estimate the number of years to double the investment of money at a given annual rate of return. So if you're not familiar with those terms, I encourage you to Google them and find out some more information about them. All right, here's some stats. Again, from the book, How Money Works. A recent study on financial literacy found that only 30% of people in the world are financially literate. In other words, there are over 7.5 billion people in the world. That means over 5 billion people are financially illiterate. It means they don't know how to handle money, or not necessarily handle money, they don't know how money works. Financial illiteracy is the #1 crisis in America. 44% of Americans don't have enough cash to cover a $400 emergency. Now, I'm not talking about Israelites. I'm talking about Americans, period. White, green, purple, red, orange, no matter. 44% of Americans don't have enough cash to cover a $400 emergency. 43% of student loan borrowers are not making payments. 38% of households in America have credit card debt. 33% of American adults have zero retirement savings. So I know we're in captivity and should have a different mindset on how we should live, but we should be the ones teaching others of the world how we're supposed to invest and how we're supposed to handle money. All right, let's go to Luke chapter 19. And just give you a few scriptures of how we maybe should view money and how we should maybe save money or operate as a kingdom-minded nation. Luke chapter 19 and read verses 12 and 13.
Luke chapter 19, verse 12. He said, therefore, a certain nobleman went into a far country to receive for himself a kingdom and to return. And he called his 10 servants and delivered them 10 pounds and said unto them, occupy till I come.
Now that word occupy means do business. Do business till I come. Now I know some people don't believe in any of the world systems as far as coming to money. I get that. But at the same time, we're supposed to do business. We're supposed to operate as if, he may come back tomorrow and he may not. But we're not supposed to just say, well, I'm not going to worry about saving this, or I'm not worried about doing this because eventually he's going to come get us. You got to operate as if he's not maybe coming back tomorrow. So you still got to worry about other things. We go to Proverbs chapter 13 and verse 22.
Proverbs chapter 13 and verse 22. A good man leaveth an inheritance to his children's children, and the wealth of the sinner is laid up for the just.
So a good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children, meaning he leaves it not only for his child, but also for his grandchild. Thinking ahead, and that involves planning, doing right things with money, or not necessarily all about money, but investing as far as this truth. Some kind of way of leaving something for your children's children and not just leaving them in a state where they have nothing. Got to give them something more than what you have. Proverbs chapter 21, verse 5.
Proverbs chapter 21 and verse 5. The thoughts of the diligent tend only to plenteousness, but of every one that is hasty only to want.
So it's the diligent that's going to end up getting more. Those that have a mindset to do work, those that are wishing for something to happen and not putting the work in, probably not going to end up having anything. But you got to have a mindset to work towards something. All right, Proverbs 6, verses 6 through 8.
Proverbs chapter 6 and verse 6. Go to the ant, thou sluggard, consider her ways and be wise, which having no guide, overseer, or ruler, provideth her meat in the summer and gathereth her food in the harvest.
Okay, consider the ant. I mean, this is summertime. They busy because they know that wintertime's coming and they have to have something to get them through those times. So they're constantly working, gathering and storing and working, not relaxing, doing business because they know that in the coming months, it's going to be a time where they can't do what they need to do. So they're busy. Go to Genesis chapter 41. And read verses 34 through 36.
Genesis chapter 41 and verse 34. Let Pharaoh do this, and let him appoint officers over the land, and take up the fifth part of the land of Egypt, and in 7 plenteous years. And let them gather all the food of those good years that come, and lay up corn under the hand of Pharaoh, and let them keep food in the cities. And that food shall be for store to the land against the 7 years of famine, which shall be in the land of Egypt, that the land perish not through the famine.
So it's always a good mindset to kind of keep something stored up because you don't know. And I know we trust the Most High for everything. I get that. But at the same time, Joseph had given Pharaoh this wisdom on how to handle a famine because it's going to happen. There's going to be times where things are good. There's going to be times where things get rough. Right now, you look at Sister Joanne was saying how the grocery stores are not stocking up like they used to. And again, we do trust the Most High, but then at a certain time we have to use certain wisdom because He gives us that wisdom because He knows sometimes that, hey, these things are coming up And we have to be in a mindset that, hey, we might need to prepare for those lean years. All right, Luke chapter 14. And read verses 28 through 30.
Con. Luke chapter 14, verse 28. For which of you, intending to build a tower, sitteth not down first and count up the cost, whether he have sufficient to finish it? Least happily, after he hath laid the foundation and is not able to finish it, all that behold it begin to mock him, saying, this man began to build and was not able to finish.
So we should always have some kind of plan toward anything that we do, whether it be business, whether it be finances, whether it be goals for a career, how to get back to school. You should calculate those costs and think about how I should need to do this, and think about a plan A, a plan B, and a plan C. All right, so now, when Yahushua came to fulfill his assignment, he selected 12 men whom he knew would be faithful to the task. Of course, we know there was one disappointment, but of course he knew that. He selected 5 businessmen who were pretty much in the fishing business, a tax collector, a zealot, an accounting, which was Judas, and then 4 others. So even in the midst of a captivity, they were able to operate and have a mindset of doing business. And one thing about Rome, which is similar to our captivity now, is that they gave them freedom to do and still observe their religion, observe their traditions. And that main thing with Rome was, as long as they pay their taxes and do what's right by us, they can do what they want to. And we're kind of similar in this arena. We are free to celebrate our feast days. We are free to gather as we please. As long as we do what's good by old Uncle Sam, everything's cool. So we still have that same mindset. So for me, being in business, of course, these guys, most of them that he selected, they had freedom to be able to still support him, and they didn't have to worry about going and taking off time. But he picked these men for a reason. I think he had specific plans for each one of them, but again, there were 4 of them that we don't really know about. But he needed men that could basically drop at a drop of a dime, leave and follow him and do ministry. And he also put in a mindset to kind of pick men that he could duplicate themselves in. So now, let's see, hold on. All right, let's go to Matthew chapter 25. And this is the meat of pretty much the lesson. Matthew chapter 25. And I want you to read verses 14 through 30.
God. Matthew chapter 25 and verse 14. For the kingdom of heaven is as a man traveling into a far country, who called his own servants and delivered unto them his goods. And unto one he gave 5 talents, to another 2, and to another 1, to every man according to his several ability, and straightway took his journey. Then he that had received the 5 talents went and traded with the same, and made them other 5 talents. And likewise he that had received 2, he also gained other 2. But he that had received 1 went and digged in the earth and hid his Lord's money. After a long time, the Lord of those servants cometh and reckoneth with them. And so he that had received 5 talents came and brought other 5 talents, saying, Lord, thou deliverest unto me 5 talents. Behold, I have gained beside them 5 talents more. His Lord said unto him, Well done, thy good and faithful servant. Thou hast been faithful over a few things, I will make thee rule over many things. Enter thou into the joy of thy Lord. He also that had received 2 talents came and said, Lord, thou deliverest unto me 2 talents. Behold, I have gained 2 other talents beside them. His Lord said unto him, Well done, good and faithful servant, that has been faithful over a few things. I will make thee ruler over many things. Enter thou into the joy of the Lord, of thy Lord. Then he which had received the 1 talent came and said, Lord, I knew thee that thou art an hard man, reaping where thou hast not sown, and gathering where thou hast not strawed. And I was afraid, and went and hid thy talent in the earth. Lo, thou hast that is thine. His Lord answered and said unto him, Thou wicked and slothful servant, thou knewest that I reap where I sowed not, and gather where I have not strawed. Thou oughtest therefore to have put my money to the exchangers, and then at my coming I should have received mine own with usury. Take therefore the talent from him, and give it unto him which have 10 talents. For unto every one that hath shall be given, and he shall have abundance. But from him that have not shall be taken away even that which he hath. And cast ye the unprofitable servant into utter darkness. There shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth.
All right, so now if you back at the beginning when he gave the talents to those 3 individuals, it sounds like to me that the first one almost like didn't waste any time. Just like I said a little bit about the young person investing their money quickly at a young age, it seems like he went right away and invested and made another 5 talents. And same with the second guy. It didn't seem like they wasted a lot of time. It seemed like they took their time about investment. They almost like came up with a plan, invested it, and so that when the servant came back to get his money with interest, had no problem giving him back not only what he gave him, but double what he gave him. But this one particular guy decided that, hey, I'm not going to take any risk. The worst I can do is give him back what he gave me. He went and buried it in a hole, and he called him a wicked. Let's see that verse 26. He said, "He Lord answered said to him, Thou wicked and slothful servant." He called him wicked because he did not give him a return on his investment. So when we think about Yahushua, in fact, there was a distinct difference, Shalaki. If today was the first time you came into the truth, and you actually stayed in the truth for like 1 year, and 1 year from now, would you be the same today as you were when you first came in the truth? There should be a difference. There should be some changes in your life. There should be some kind of growth. There has to be a distinct difference. There has to be growth. Not only that, you should have begin or want to become different, a different person than what you started out when you first came into this knowledge of truth. That's if you're being diligent. You can't just hold on to that old man. Just like last week, Brother Nakai talked about being the old man buried in Romans 6, 1-7. That old man has to be buried, not to come up again the same old man. It has to be a newness of mindset, a newness of thought, a newness of life, a newness of understanding. It has to be a whole different process, a thought process in walking in this truth from what you did in time past. Now, so think if Yahushua was the servant with the 1 talent, and he gave back the Most High what the Most High gave him. We'd be in a world of hurt. But the Messiah, Yahushua, gave his all. And as we read in verse 21, it says that his Lord said unto him, Well done, thou good and faithful servant. He said, Thou hast been faithful over a few things. So what he gave him was just a small amount of things. He said, Thou hast been faithful over a few things. But because of he was faithful over the few things, he said, I will make thee ruler over many things. Enter thou into the joy of the Lord. So what the Most High is going to give us, in my opinion, is not going to be overbearing. He's just going to give you something to work with based on what he's put in you and based on his investment in you. And all he's looking back from you is to put or give him a return on his investment, but not to the stretch where it's going to overwhelm you. All right? So now, again, he's not asking for a lot. All right? Let's see. Let's go to Sirach, chapter 18, back into the Apocrypha. So all of us have talents, and all of us have gifts that the Most High has put in us. I can't tell you what your talent might be, but more likely, if it's something that you do naturally, that's something like of a good thing, that's probably something that you might want to gravitate to, whether it be Sister Courtney, she bakes. She can use that for the kingdom. Another brother may be good at organizing. He can use that for the kingdom. Some people are good with finances. They can use that for the kingdom. Others are just good at doing, odds and ends. That they can use that for the kingdom. But you have to kind of come up in your mindset of what that is for you to do for the kingdom. All right. Go to Sirach chapter 18 and read verses 25. You there? Y'all hear me?
I'm sorry, brother. I was on mute. I'm sorry.
Oh, no problem. I thought I lost you. All right, Sirach chapter 18, verse 25.
Man, I done read everything.
Just that one verse.
Okay, the book of Ecclesiasticus, Sirach in the Apocrypha, chapter 18, verse 25. When thou hast enough, remember the time of hunger, and when thou art rich, think upon poverty and need.
It said, when thou hast enough, remember the time of hunger. And when thou art rich, think about poverty and need. To me, that's just saying, don't forget where you came from. When you do make this, or you do strive to be this, don't forget that at one point you were not at that point. Don't forget where you came from. Stay in the Apocrypha and go to Sirach chapter 29 and read verse 11.
Chapter 29 and verse 11, lay up thy treasure according to the commandments of the Most High, and it shall bring thee more profit than gold.
So we are to follow the commandments of the Most High. If we use his guideline for whatever it is, finances, complete instructions on how we should live, based in the Torah, based in our law, statutes, and commandments, it says it's going to give you a profit better than gold. All right? So now, how can we show we are giving the Most High a return on investment? I say just begin with the simple stuff. For instance, if you come into the truth and you find yourself about the dietary law, and you take heed to the dietary law, and you follow the instructions based on what we read in the scriptures, and you follow that guideline, then you're showing him, in a way, a return on his investment. That's because you're trusting his word and believing what his word is saying. If you're in the truth and you find the part that talks about how we should dress, and you take heed to that, and you follow those guidelines, you're showing him a return on his investment. We're supposed to be different so that the world can see that there's a difference between us and them. If you're on your job and everybody else participates in talking about others and as far as gossip, but you take a stance against that, saying you're not going to participate in that act, and you are showing a return on his investment. So now, if you know not to participate in these pagan holidays, but you make a great effort and actually observe the days that he has put out for us to observe, then you are showing him and giving him an investment on, a return on his investment. So now I believe that the parable in Matthew 25 goes a little bit deeper than just actual gifts as far as what we give back to the Lord in that standpoint. It goes a little bit deeper. So let's go back to Matthew chapter 25 and read verses 31 through 46.
Matthew chapter 25 and verse 31. When the Son of Man shall come in his glory, and all the holy angels with him, then shall he sit upon the throne of his glory. And before him shall be gathered all nations, and he shall separate them one from another, as a shepherd divideth his sheep from the goats. And he shall set the sheep on his right hand, but the goats on the left. Then shall the king say unto them on his right hand, Come, ye blessed of my father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world. For I was an hungered, and ye gave me meat. I was thirsty, and ye gave me drink. I was a stranger, and ye took me in. Naked, and ye clothed me. I was sick, and ye visited me. I was in prison, and ye came unto me. Then shall the righteous answer him, saying, Lord, when saw we thee and hungered, and fed thee, or thirsty, and gave thee drink? When saw we thee a stranger, and took thee in, or naked, and clothed thee? Or when saw we thee sick, or in prison, and came unto thee? And the king shall answer and say unto them, Verily I say unto you, insomuch as ye have done it unto one of the least of these my brethren, ye have done it unto me. Then shall he say also unto them on the left hand, Depart from me, ye cursed, into everlasting fire, prepared for the devils and his angels. For I was an hungered, and ye gave me no meat. I was thirsty, and ye gave me no drink. I was a stranger, and ye took me not in. Naked, and ye clothed me not. Sick, and in prison, and ye visited me not. Then shall they also answer him, saying, Lord, when saw we thee and hungered, and athirst, or a stranger, or naked, or sick, or in prison, or did not minister unto thee? Then shall he answer them, saying, Verily I say unto you, insomuch as ye did it not to one of the least of these, ye did it not to me. And these shall go away into everlasting punishment, but the righteous into life eternal.
So like I said earlier, not only has the Most High given us talents, but he also wants us to show compassion to his own by feeding the hungry, talking to the strangers, clothing the naked, visiting the sick, visiting those who are in prison. So we're just sitting at home, getting all this knowledge, watching YouTube, and I can break down this doctrine, and I can break down this doctrine, and yeah, I'm this, I'm that, and not doing these things. Then what are we doing? He said these are things that are very important to him in order to take care of my people by showing compassion on others. So this is a question I want you to think about or ponder. And perhaps you need to study more and learn more about this truth, but we eventually should get to a point where you don't just talk the talk. The question is, how can we collectively make a difference to the world based on the example Yahweh gave us? We can't just sit back and do nothing. We got to be out there doing these things. All right? The Most High has given us insight and guidelines on how to be successful. I want to find the three scriptures. Let's go to Joshua chapter 1 and 8. Very familiar scripture.
The book of Joshua, chapter 1 and verse 8. This book of the law shall not depart out of thy mouth, but thou shalt meditate therein day and night, that thou mayest observe to do according to all that is written therein. For then thou shalt make thy way prosperous, and then thou shalt have good success.
So one of the ways we can give him a return on his investment is to meditate on this law and let it not depart from our mouth. It should be not necessarily that you're speaking 24/7, but it should be something that you talk about often. It should be something that you meditate on at least twice, day or night, if not more. And he said by doing that, it's going to allow you to make your way prosperous and you will have good success. Just about like when you read Deuteronomy 28, you got the blessings and the curses. The blessings are always linked up on if we would keep the laws, statutes, and commandments. All these blessings will follow you. But of course, if we don't, we know what's the opposite. Let's go to Luke chapter 6. Luke chapter 6 and read verses 32 through 38.
Luke chapter 6, verse 32. For if ye love them which love you, what thank have ye? For sinners also love those that love them. And if you do good to them which do good to you, what thank have ye? For sinners also do even the same. And if ye lend to them of whom you hope to receive, what thank have ye? For sinners also lend to sinners to receive as much again. But love ye your enemies, and do good, and lend, hoping for nothing again, and your reward shall be great, and ye shall be the children of the highest. For he is kind unto the unthankful and to the evil. Be ye therefore merciful, as your Father also is merciful. Judge not, and ye shall not be judged. Condemn not, and ye shall not be condemned. Forgive, and ye shall be forgiven. Give, and it shall be given unto you. Good measure, pressed down and shaken together, and running over, shall men give unto your bosom. For with the same measure that ye meet, withal it shall be measured to you again.
All right, so verse 38 says, give, and it shall be given unto you. Good measure, pressed down and shaken together, and running shall men give into your bosom. Bosom is a garment that was made that had an overlap. And you could put your hand in the overlap and actually store stuff. So it's actually talking about a garment where you could have so much that you would put inside your bosom. It says, if you give, he's going to give back unto you. So I know we use this a lot of time in Christian churches as far as offering, but this is still a true statement. If you give, the Most High is going to give back to you, especially with their intentions, especially if you're giving to those who are less fortunate than you are, those who are in need. Our last scripture, go to Proverbs chapter 19. Proverbs chapter 19 and verse 17.
Come. Proverbs chapter 19 and verse 17. He that hath pity upon the poor lendeth unto Yahweh, and that which he hath given will he pay him again.
So we give to the poor, lend to the poor. It's like lending to the Most High. We know he's good for his. Man may not pay you back, but the Most High saying you take care of the poor, you have compassion, because you remember, again, you could be there. And a lot of us may not be one paycheck away. It might be 3 or 4, but poverty can hit any of us at any given time, whether it be something that we did on our own or whether it be something that the Most High decides, hey, to allow you to go through that. It can happen. So just like you have compassion on others, you want others to have compassion on you. So as I close, I just want you to take a moment and reflect. Is the Most High pleased with what I am doing, or is he displeased? Am I doing my very best? Have I become lukewarm? So in this time, I'm just encouraging us as a body. COVID has come upon us. There are a lot of things we haven't done, kind of gotten away from. But if we're on fire as if the Most High or Yahweh just passed away and we really believe in what we're doing, I think we need to turn it up a notch. And I'm speaking to myself. I'm just speaking and encouraging the body. And we need to turn it up, because we keep saying time is short, but sometimes we don't act like it. So I just want to encourage the body. I pray that the word has encouraged us, uplifted us, edified us. And with that, I say shalom.